Hey, remember the early 2000s and 2010s? Remember when we were all on basic cable TV and we just had too many options to choose from and it was easy to miss some stuff? Remember when one of the biggest one of these shows was Bones? And remember that very specific episode of Bones in season 6, episode 19 called The Finder? The one where they go in Florida and enlist the help of a guy named Walter, also known as the Finder, and his friend Leo, played by Michael Clark Duncan. Yeah, I thought so. I mean, how couldn't you remember that? And I bet you totally remember that they made an entire spin off series based on this one episode. Well, clearly you don't, you liars, because the show only got one season. Now, doing a video on a one season failed TV show when I could be reviewing something more modern and an algorithm seems like a really dumb move for a YouTube channel that is 3 years old and not even close to monetization, and gets excited when a video gets more than 100 views. But I was reminded of The Finder not too long ago, and then Chauncey and I decided to rewatch the entire thing, and I decided I still love the show a lot, and so I wanted to make a video about it. Now, again, is this a smart move for my channel? Probably not, but in the words of The Finder himself,
I'm gonna risk it. Oh!
now, I don't think it really needs to be stated, but, just to be safe, spoilers. I won't go into specific details about what happens in episodes of the show, but clips will be shown, and go over some of the characters and how they're developed, and just be discussed. So now, onto The Finder. The Finder is like other episodic procedurals from back in the day. You got the quirky, not really fit for real society main character, Walter Sherman, played by Jeff Schultz, that has special talents and goes around doing seemingly impossible things and connecting hidden lines. He is accompanied by a supportive best friend and all around good guy, Leo Knox, played by Michael Clark Duncan. He also has some law enforcement on his side to keep some of the more illegal things under wraps and to pull favors, with U.S. Marshal Isabel Zambada, who also happens to be the main love interest of Walter. These three make up the initial main team that do most of the finding, but there is a fourth character that is just as important, and that would be Willa Monday, a young gypsy girl that is on probation in order to work at the Ends of the Earth bar owned by Leo. Leo personally looks after her and tries to be a mentor and fatherly figure. She also, as the series goes on, starts to be more involved with the finding. There are, of course, some other minor reoccurring characters like Timo, Willa's gypsy cousin, and Willa's probation officer. What makes this show a little more unique compared to the other episodic procedurals from around that time is that the setup isn't just someone is found dead or there's an explosion somewhere or any of the other kind of cliche things happening at the time. Although it's not completely different from those kinds of setups, since, the show is about finding stuff. So obviously, every episode is someone going, hey, I lost this thing, and then they find it. But the things in question throughout the show will range from the ordinary to the extraordinary. Like they go from a guy just wanting a lucky pair of socks back to finding evidence of alien life. But even though the things they look for is always pretty different and unique with each episode, there is a bit of a formula in all these episodes, or at least elements of the same thing in each one. But that is not uncommon with procedurals of that time. For example, in the show House, House never gets a diagnosis right the first time. It takes a few tries, a couple being an asshole visit to the patient, a bad reaction to some treatment, realizing someone lied at some point, a visit to the free clinic, maybe breaking into a house, a talk with Wilson, and then the aha moment that can be during, any of those scenes or a scene slash element of its own. In the show Bones, which was also created by Hart Hanson, who created The Finder, each episode starts with a body or bone being discovered. And then there isn't enough info from it so for them to be able to solve the entire case. Suspects get investigated, minor characters would go do something related to their field, then the aha moment and arrest the bad guy. And, to keep things spicy on occasion, one of the characters would almost die or something, and there would be some overarching seasonal or multi-seasonal bad guy, along with personal character drama and the main will they, won't they get together love interest kind of thing. The Finder's formula is that it has an episode structure that usually starts with a man walking into the ends of the earth bar to find Walter. We figure out how that person knows who Walter is, how they found them, what they're looking for, and then it's whether Walter is either excited to agree to the case or has to be convinced because it's a good cause by his friends.
It's not like her inheritance would mean anything.
She can't find her inheritance?
That's why her father called her, about her inheritance.
Well, I could find her inheritance.
And there we are.
We get the starting investigation section where we get some more facts and basis for the case. At some point, Isabel or other law people get involved. Walter makes some nonsensical contraption that only he understands in order to help. There's a moment that adds a little danger and excitement. Walter has a dream that leads him to the answer, then the resolution where he explains what he learned and the actual meaning behind the things that he found. But during these beats, there's usually a side story with Willa and Leo, where you learn about how Walter's brain works, or more about Isabel's dream path for her career, and how she thinks she can balance that with Walter and her relationship. All mixed in with some decent, but slow character work, and in my opinion, good humor.
So Willow wanting someone to like her by definition means she's not a sociopath.
She's redeemable.
Like a coupon.
While when watching the show, the formula does become clear, it doesn't really get old with enough subtle variety to every episode. And again, all the things that Walter has to find are pretty unique, and then there's little differences in the formula and the tactics and the path forward. The machine's always pretty cool, and it's all just enough to keep it feeling fresh. And the pacing helps too. Instead of a killer being out on the loose or someone sick and in need of help to keep pacing moving along, to keep it so conversations aren't just finishing on the spot and the drama being resolved immediately because important business is happening, the Finder has Walter. Once Walter has a case to sink his teeth into, he is like a bloodhound on the scent, but more quippy than howly and growly.
What do you want from Walter, Joe? You want him to find something?
I want you to find a meal.
I'm in.
Walter,
I'm in.
Well, you didn't even know.
I'm in.
Okay.
let him finish first. Tell your tale.
And then I'm in.
What I mean by that is when something serious is happening with Willa or Isabel during a side story, Walter is always seemingly not paying attention or even just not interested, just wanting to push things to get on with whatever he wanted to do in order to help with finding a missing bullet shot in the 70s.
I just want to get this questionnaire filled out so I can go home to Washington. When can we start? Is this really the only way we can do this?
When Walter's on the hunt, it's difficult to get him to sit still.
Would you describe him as manic?
No, I would not. Motivated, focused, avid.
Excellent use of synonyms, Leo.
Then, of course, while doing the actual work of the case, the B-plot stuff gets talked about more, and the characters make some decisions and seem to have some growth or change by the end of the episode, while Walter is still just Walter. So let's talk a bit more about the characters, starting with Walter. Walter was a pretty straightforward, no-nonsense soldier who was sent to Iraq to find a bomber. But the bomber found him first. And ever since, he has been a bit wacky and abnormal to society. But he has a supernatural need to find what he's looking for, or he gets upset and dangerous. So basically, he got blown onto the autistic spectrum. Take that, people who think autism is linked to vaccines and Tylenol, because it's actually linked to fireworks. So yeah, Walter comes back from Iraq a changed man. He is a lot more quirky and always smiling with a, this is nothing, I got this calm energy. He doesn't seem to take anything too seriously because he always seems to be one step ahead of everyone because of how he can connect things in his head, along with knowing he has the muscle mountain of Leo by his side and Isabel with the law support. He also happens to have a vault filled with all kinds of treasures and knickknacks and a reputation in many powerful circles. So he can ask for a lot of favors or even bribe his way out of trouble if he needs to. And the show specifically goes out of its way to have Walter ask for favors from people from past episodes. For example, in one episode, a renowned space scientist is asking Walter to find his Cinderella from a bar encounter. Then, in a later episode about aliens, Walter calls that same scientist to ask him if he knows about anything strange that was detected in space. It was all done with a phone call and a subtle name drop, so if you don't remember who he was from that prior episode, then you might have missed it. But back to Walter. Walter is not afraid to break the law in order to get what he is looking for, or even just a small clue to lead to finding it. There are times when it seems Walter's urge to find things makes him a bad man, but he does care about others and usually ends up finding what the client is really looking for, and not what they asked.
Now, the trouble is, I usually find more than what people want.
But to do the good guy moment, sometimes he does need convincing from others.
All right, I'm gonna go back to my place and order a pizza. Isabel? What? I'm done. You hired me to find a meal. Found it. There it is. Your marriage is your problem.
Walter, it's not a meal. It's just food. We are the meal.
All right, Isabel, go talk to her.
A big part of what makes Walter's whole operation work is the fact that he has Leo. Leo is a no longer practicing lawyer and the owner of the ends of the earth. Leo is not only the muscle to help Walter when things get a bit dangerous, he is also the angel on his shoulder. He constantly tells him what laws he is breaking and how many year sentences he can get by breaking them, and he also tries to see the good in people in all situations. He is always in awe of Walter and is his biggest supporter.
Amount of paper plus art student divided by delivery to school times cash payment minus the square root of very suspicious behavior equals one counterfeiter.
Walter math never fails.
But he also knows he needs to keep him along the straight and narrow and make sure he finds what he needs before he gets too crazy. Which, in a way, is the same thing Walter did for him when they first met. Leo was in a dark place after the loss of his family and was going to do something bad when Walter found him and brought him back to the light. So from then on, they have been a team. But Leo doesn't just look after Walter. He's also the primary sponsor and caretaker for Willa while she is on probation. He's a mixture of just a generally good employer, a mentor, and a father figure to Willa. He wants to show her there is a different and more decent way of life than her gypsy family's lifestyle. He wants to show that she can always choose to be a good person, even if her family and everyone around her has kind of given up and says she can't. Leo is a decently complex and wonderful character that can be a pure beacon of goodness, but also get his own beliefs challenged and make him slip and waver a bit when Walter or Willa get a little too much to handle. And he is just perfectly played by Michael Clark Duncan. May he rest in peace. So now let's move on to Willa, the gypsy girl that has been forced to be at the ends of the earth for her probation sentence. Willa is a girl from day one, has had the life of thievery, con artistry, double dealing, and a little bit of spirituality. She is a gypsy through and through and is proud of it and just wants to get back to making her family money. But she does also deep down have a good heart and care for everyone at the ends of the earth and a lot of her family, especially her cousin, Timo. But she doesn't know any way to help others other than to use her criminal gypsy skills, so it is always a constant battle between what is right with intention and what is right with methods between her and Leo. They do a great job throughout the show having her be useful and slowly more a part of the finding team, from reluctantly helping to kind of actually wanting to and finding some thrill in it, and just kind of developing her more and more to making her a better person. I can see there might be more out there than just the life her family leads. Leo is always wanting and struggling to keep her on track, while Walter kind of likes to use her for her criminal skills to benefit his finding. But still, they both can teach her right from wrong. Then there is Isabel, the U.S. Marshal and romantic partner of Walter. She, of course, is the tough, no nonsense, unless it's Walter's nonsense, cop with a dynamite body and dedicated work ethic. Isabel sees Walter as amazing in terms of both a person and a step forward for her career. He keeps stumbling into things that she can claim a lot of credit for and give a nice feather in her cap to make it so she can get a bigger and better job in DC. Her career and getting to DC is what she first and foremost works on. Her relationship with Walter is kind of second. She always tries to make herself okay with the idea of leaving him any day if she gets a chance to go to DC, because she just doesn't see him as a DC person. I mean, not the white as can be Florida boy with flip up sunglasses and flip flops that likes to debate ninja versus samurai, designated hitter versus Al Qaeda, and kinda good versus sorta evil. But as the season goes on, Isabel does start to kind of just fall for Walter more than a booty call, and the relationship evolves, and she starts to see Walter as more capable for a life in DC than she originally thought. She is probably the least utilized and developed character, but she is still a joy to watch, and I think if they had more seasons, they could have really done something with her, because they do start to get a little more in depth with her in the later half of the show. But all these characters together is a bit of a dysfunctional but lovable finding family. They are all very unique and different characters that all have strengths and weaknesses. They bounce well off of each other to keep the audience entertained, and I think that this show does a great job showing what a good, strong female character is, as opposed to what modern Hollywood kind of wants them to be. Isabel is never flipping around and taking down Leo-sized men. And she pulls her gun, she calls her backup, uses what seems to be actual cop training. She's very confident and capable in her job, and while she's written more like a tomboy, she's not just written like a man. Willa is very clever and quick on her feet. She has been trained from birth, which makes her very capable despite her age. Again, she never overpowers anyone on strength, but she can outthink and use her age to fool some people. She's also the most tech-savvy of the group. All of this makes these girls just as valuable to the ensemble as Leo and Walter. But of course, since the show is called The Finder, the best of them all that really tie together is Walter the Finder himself. Alright, let's go ahead and wrap this up. The Finder was a unique show that drowned in a sea of episodic, mostly involving cops procedurals that, if it was made today with the same ratings, would probably have gotten 2 to 3 seasons. All of the actors, except for Michael Clark Duncan, never really broke out after the show ended, which is a shame because I think every one of them brought something great to their performances. They had a good range of kind of overdone and subtle characteristics. Jeff Schultz just ate up the screen both as the main focus of the scene and whenever he was in the background. Just like the show's sad ending overall, the season ended in tragedy, where we will never see the characters live happily ever after, which is both unique for a show and tragic. I would never want to reboot or late second season or something because the cast was perfect and they are a lot older now or sadly passed away. So, there'd be people missing and a lot of time gap to cover and explain away. So no one could play them better, and especially no one could be a better Leo than Michael Clark Duncan. So for now, if you're interested in watching a show that you may have slept on back in the day to, give you the same vibes and feeling of those old procedurals back then without having to rewatch one you've seen 1,000 times, then go onto Prime or some alternative site and check out The Finder.